Customer Relationship Management, Rules of Engagement, a conversation with Reverend Tope Popoola on Manousso Musing. That is our topic for today. Welcome to the Lawyers and Mediators International Show and Podcast by InstantMediations.com, where we discuss law and conflict resolution topics to educate both professionals and everyday people. Catch regular episodes on YouTube, the Instant Mediations app, and anywhere you get your podcasts. Just remember, nothing in these episodes constitutes legal advice, so be sure to talk to a lawyer, as cases are fact-dependent. Hey, welcome back, everybody. This is Mac Pierre-Louis, attorney, mediator, and arbitrator, working throughout Florida and Texas.
And Natalia advocate and mediator from Warsaw, Poland, and also family Supreme Court certified mediator from Florida.
And I'm Dr. Barbara Sunderland Manousso, and I am in Houston, Texas, and in Newport, Rhode Island. I'm a practitioner as well as an international trainer. And today I am just delighted. One of our titans of mediation is Reverend Tope Popoola. And we're so happy to have you here. So welcome, Reverend.
Thank you very much, Dr. Barbara. It's my pleasure.
I'm sorry.
I said it's my pleasure to be here.
Well, it's certainly our pleasure to have you here. And you're a very interesting man. You have written many books. And the one we're going to talk about today is about customer relations and relationships. You've trained people in over 40 countries. You're an author, obviously. You're a mediator. You're a minister. And you have an outstanding background education-wise. And it's very, very much a pleasure that you're taking this information that could be applied to any type of corporate leadership or customer relations and applying it to a field of mediation. And that is such an important opportunity and a need for so many people who are talented as mediators but lack other tools. So could you tell us about your book that we're going to talk about today? It came out a while ago. I've read it. It's outstanding. Customer Relationship Management, Rules of Engagement. I couldn't put it down. My husband had to make me go to bed. He got up and he said, time to go to bed. And I just couldn't put it down. So tell me what inspired you to write this book, please.
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Manousso. There's this book was actually born out of my relationships in the marketplace, in the business community, with the business community. As a business consultant, I get to preside over quite a number of meetings and facilitate engagements, and so some of the things I observed and some of my own personal experiences as a customer. Now, sometimes I think we make the mistake of thinking that, once we are selling something, or we have, product on offer, a service on offer, a value on offer, we forget that we are also customers. So everybody is somebody's customer. And if you do not think from that perspective, you're going to have problems, because you would think that, yes, I'm the one who has this product or this value or this service, and everybody just comes and dances to my tune. And that is so wrong. I found out that people will sit down in the corporate environment and they would begin to strategize. They will begin to talk about, how to reach the customer, what the customer wants, how to package the product. And, they talk about, certain P's, in the customer, in product management. You talk about, the product, the pricing, the people, and you talk about all of those nice things and technicalities. But when push comes to shove, when the rubber meets the road, how is the customer served? And the best person to answer that question is a customer himself. So, one of the things I say to my clients, for instance, is that all of us are in the business of people. Business is about people. And until you come to recognize that, you would think that you were in business for the money. Now, the money is a reward, it's a consequence of the purpose. So, you don't, a lot of times we get that wrong. You make the money the purpose, whereas the money is the reward for fulfilling the purpose. And what is the original purpose? It's about bringing quality service to the table. It's about understanding where people are in their need metrics and being able to step in and fill that gap. And once you are able to do that, then the whole idea of pricing would not be an issue. I will pay any price for something that I consider needful. If I need to do it, now, who argues with a doctor? If you have a life-threatening disease and you're rushed to ER, and you don't argue with the doctor over the bill, you just want to be well. So that's the thing. So the critical issue, and a lot of us, we fuss over the price, we fuss over, how much I'm going to get. No. If you supply value, what you get will be a reward. And one of the things, in fact, one of the opening statements I make in the book is the fact that entrepreneurship or business, whatever kind of business, whether in mediation or whatever business you're doing, it's about being able to solve a significant problem in a significant way for a significant number of people in a way that makes them want to give you a significant reward. So you see that the reward, which is the money aspect, is the last thing on the table. But for many of us, we usually put that first. So one of the things I tell people these days is recognize that every business has customers. And whether you know them or you don't know them, that's a different thing. I remember facilitating a program, where I was asked to train the staff of it was one of these what do you call them, this fast food companies, and not in America, here in Nigeria. And so I stood there and I asked them the question. I said, who pays your salary? And everybody began to say, oh, it's the board. Oh, some people said, oh, it's the MD, CEO. Some people said, well, my line manager has to approve, and, all kinds of answers. And I looked at all of that. They were shocked when I looked at them, and I said, okay, but who pays the salaries of the people you just mentioned? So now that was a problem. They couldn't answer that. And I said to them, those are not the guys who pay your salaries. The person who pays your salaries is the same person who pays their salaries. So, and I said, who is that? The guy who walks in through the door to buy what you are selling. Without him, you don't have a board. Without him, you don't have an MD CEO. Without him, you don't have anything. So the business of the 21st century is about making customers. It's about making customers and retaining them. And how does that happen? It's about the quality of value that you bring to the table that solves a significant problem for the customer in a way that he feels happy. And when he is happy, he will gladly pay whatever you're asking for. So, but we sometimes we turn that around, and we're thinking that, okay, maybe if I reduce the price, they'll come. Or maybe if I tweak the packaging, they will come. But and in all of that, you're still not addressing the problem of the value. And the value proposition is so significant. That's where it all begins from. So I wrote this book in order to let people out there who are in business, mediation, and or mediation even much. If you look at this field of mediation, let's make it specific. You can come to the mediating table and just come like a disinterested person who's just interested in bringing two people in conflict together. Let them come knock their heads, against themselves, and you're just there. You're just simply facilitating and midwifing a process. But your heart is not connected with what you're doing. But the people you're doing this for are people with flesh and blood. They have concerns. They have, and the concerns of each person on the table is the reason why they're coming to have to mediation in the first place. All right. If there was nothing significant that was of concern to them, either about allocation of resources, and when I say allocation of resources, the resources could be emotional, it could be physical, it could be financial. Now, so we're looking at all of these things and there's a conflict. But then, why do they come to the mediation table? It's because they want a resolution. They probably don't want to go through litigation. They know all the challenges of litigation. They know how long it can be. They know how expensive it can get. They know how messy it can get. So they agree to come to mediation. So you have to understand that these are real people with real concerns, with real needs. And when you come with that sense of empathy, even though you are detached from the issues because you have to maintain your neutrality, you still understand the fact that these are people. So,
Mac, I think you have a question there. Reverend Mac has a question he'd like to ask. Go ahead, please.
So, a couple of things. My question really centers about mediators, and I'm a firm believer in having a niche and really excelling in it and in providing a service in the mediation field that nobody else is doing, so that you can bring that value you're talking about to the consumers out there. So, can you talk a little bit about when it comes to customer management, creating a niche, and the value that can be produced from having a niche?
Oh, great. There's something that I call the value of differentiation, right? And when you go to the market, when you go to the business space, people are talking about competition. People are talking about having a competitive edge, and that's something that's like a buzz you have everywhere. But the challenge with that is this: when you benchmark yourself with competition, you have very little time to develop your own edge. And you need to understand that, a brand is a distinction. It's a way of saying, this is who I am. Now, the major challenge with that is many of us stop at the issue of identity when we talk about creating or managing a brand. We talk about identity. This is who I am, and you stop there. But the colors, the package, they don't make the brand. They're just the initial contact, the initial face of the brand. Now, when I hear Manousso mediation, for instance, right? I know instantly that Manousso is either the name of a person or a contrived name of an organization. Then I know from mediation, I know exactly what Manousso mediation does. So if I have a need in the area of importing, car spare parts, I'm not going to go to Manousso mediation because I know Manousso mediation cannot have anything to do with car spare parts. So that already tells me this is what Manousso mediation does. Now, but beyond that, that is the promise. What the brand does is the promise. So there's a brand promise. what are you offering in terms of significant value to the society? What are you giving to your clients that makes them want to come back? And that's the thing. What are you doing that makes the customer want to come back? Now, that's the promise of the brand. Now, when you have given the promise, then comes the expectations of the customer. Now, if I go to Manousso mediation for to resolve a conflict, and I come out of the mediation process midwifed by Manousso mediation, right, and the conflict has escalated rather than get it resolved, it only became worse. Now, my expectation from Manousso mediation has been disappointed. And that will therefore form what I call my experience. Now, the moment, so you see the progression of the brand. It's not just enough to say, oh, this is what I do, or this is who I am. The value has a progression. So you're going from the identity of the brand to the promise of the brand to the expectations on the part of the customer. And then that expectation will be tested by the experience that he has with the brand. So it is from that experience that he now forms his perception. Now, the bottom line of that is perception is reality. What we perceive is our reality. And that's why reality changes from time to time depending on how the perception is changing. So in building a brand as a mediator, what you want to do is ask yourself, when 10 people think of the best mediators around, do I want my name among the top 10? And if I want my name among the top 10, it must begin with what kind of experience am I delivering to the customer? Now, people could come into my office for mediation or, a venue. It could be virtual. And I make them feel like, because I come like the Lord of the Manor, who is almost like a judge, and I'm just giving them, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do, this is what you do. There's no smile, there's no connection. And the thing about people is all of us are emotional. Every single one of us has emotions. And those emotions must be carried along. They must be factored into any kind of engagement if we're going to go far. So if I don't feel comfortable walking into the office of Manousso mediation, I know it doesn't matter how professional, how knowledgeable they are in that office. If I don't feel comfortable, if I don't have an environment where I can express myself without being judged, without anybody looking at me, taking a second look at me
Sure.
and second guessing me, then there's going to be a problem.
Sure.
And this is the perfect moment to say that when we are centering on a human being, we are really centering on emotions.
Yeah.
But what you have just said, and I understand that the emotion we want to actually achieve in our customer is satisfaction, right?
Yeah.
And maybe even admiration if we want them to come back to our business. However, what you've been telling about a doctor in your example earlier on is that when we have a life-threatening disease, we will definitely pay anything to get out of that. Usually the services we offer, even if I do believe that mediation might be a life-saving experience,
Sure,
because conflict might kill us. So if we are saving someone from conflict, we're actually giving them this satisfaction, this expectation for a long, peaceful life. However, I do see a difference between an immediate relief in physical pain and an immediate relief in psychological pain, being the pain of a conflict. So what can you say how we can make people feel more satisfied and more welcome in the business we offer as mediators?
All right. I used it. I said something earlier about You know, I'm a communicator and I train on communication,
Sure.
right? You have verbal and non-verbal communication. And there are different ways you connect with people. And most of it is non-verbal. All right. It's communicators will tell you that just maybe about 20% of effective communication has to do with verbal.
Mhm.
The rest, about that means the larger part of it, about 80% of it is nonverbal. What is the body language? It's possible for somebody to be smiling at you, but you look at their body language and you know that they're actually judging you.
Mm.
I mean, you know that this person's heart is not with you. They're not feeling what you feel. They don't even understand what you feel. Now, I said something in our engagement yesterday, and I said that people may not remember what you said. They may not remember how you said it, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Now, so that is so important.
Yeah.
And how do you communicate that? If somebody comes into the office and they see what I call plastic smiles, they can tell that. I can read, people tell me a lot of times when I go to corporate organizations and they're asking me to come help them fix this and all of that. The first thing I do is I want to get into the organization, spend about 20 minutes there. First 20 minutes, I'll be able to tell you the atmosphere in that place just by looking at the expression on the faces of people. How do people feel when they're walking through the door to come and work here?
Mhm.
How do people who have engaged the staff here feel when they're going out? So these are things I just sit down at the reception and I'm looking at the traffic of people going in and out. And I see people, like walking people out through the door from their offices. I'm looking at their countenance. I'm looking at what they're doing. And so by the time I come out and say this, people are like, how did you know that? I said, I would just tell them I've been here long enough. 30 minutes
Sure.
is enough. And so, that's the thing. It's about that connection, the ability to connect. And in the first chapter of my book, actually, I talk about that, which I talked about the psychology of selling. And I talked about the power of connections that, and this is where feelings are. Every buying decision, and I mean, even your decision to buy a pen is first and foremost an emotional decision before it's an economic, before you give the economic backup by paying. Your mind, your heart, your feeling, your desire must first connect with that product or that service before you bring out the money. Otherwise, you feel like you've been cheated, like you've been robbed. And like somebody said, we all love to buy, but we don't love to be sold to. And that is a key issue. Why do we
That
love
is
to?
fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. You've wrapped it up with the right term, um, exactly, and you understand very well that the emotional part, people are in high emotion when they come into mediation. So this is a very valuable lesson, a very valuable session to help give mediators and anybody in the ADR field a good framework. And your book is absolutely outstanding, Reverend Tope
Thank you very
Popoola.
much.
And we're so happy that you're here today. Thank you for writing the book. It's a wonderful read. Definitely something that should be a stocking stuffer for everybody as we go into the holiday season. And thank you so much today for imparting so much information that's so important. People learn their skills and they learn how to do it, but they don't know how to relate it. And your relational piece is outstanding. It's not hard sell, it's human compassion and using the connection and the bridge. So we want to thank you today for being a titan of mediation on our Manousso Musing. And so this has been Manousso Musing with Reverend Tope Popoola. And we're just delighted to have the opportunity to talk about your book. And I recommend it for everyone. Thank you so much.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much,
And
Dr. Manousso.
Reverend Tope, if people want to
Yes.
get in contact with you, I am screen sharing your website, topepopoola.com.ng. And so if
Yes.
anybody wants to connect with Reverend, they're able to check out his website, and his contact information and details are there. If you're listening to this episode, definitely check out the YouTube version so you can see the screen share. But it's topepopoola.com.ng. And
NG.
again, the title of the book is Customer Relationship Management, Rules of Engagement by Reverend Tope Popoola. All right, guys. Uh, thanks so much. Until next time, we'll see you soon on Manousso Musing. Take care.
Thank you very much for having